بسم الله والحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله الكريم. بداية أحب أني أشكر المنظمين لهذا المؤتمر على التنظيم الجيد وعلى الاختيار المواضيع التي تمس القطاع المالي. جانب أعتقد هذا المحور الرابع والأخير في المؤتمر، لكن طرأ لي بعض التعديلات ويخص السؤال الأخير بخصوص إطلاق العملة الرقمية. ففي إضافة الشباب يكونوا موجودين معنا للتحدث عن العملة الرقمية. أحب أن أستضيف الشباب المتحدثين من السادة، السيد أستاذ فرهانك مغديد فليتفضل المنصة، الأستاذ الدكتور أكرم لال الدين مدير تنفيذي الأكاديمية العالمية للبحوث الفرعية، دكتور نور الطيس مدير مركز الكندي لبحوث الحوسبة في جامعة قطر، أستاذ ميكو اس بنميلا الرئيس التنفيذي في شركة سايبر انتليجنس هاوس، مستر عباس علي and Mr. Chiu Chai Jin. أعتقد بنكون احنا شوي مزحومين في الوقت، نلتزم بالوقت، بيكون 10 دقائق لكل متحدث. We'll have 10 minutes for each speaker and due to the short of times. نبدأ الحاضر الأولى والتقديم الأولي. The first one for the first Mr. Farhank Magdid.
السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين وبعد. My name is Farhang Magdid. I'm a software engineer. So I will be talking about this topic from the technology perspective. So that was one of my interests to understand about some Islamic finance instruments. So I built my paper on the Sukuk chain as a decentralized digital transformation model for the Islamic capital market. So indeed, the presentation is quite long. I will try to skip some of these things to cover it within a short time. Anyway, the introduction part, I'm not going to touch it. So you may have it on the booklet. But I just give an introduction. What is Sukuk? Sukuk is a certificate of the equal value representing unified share in the ownership of a tangible asset, a user product, or a services. So I just have a purpose when I mention those details. So indeed, there are some numbers. When we look at the market valuation of the Sukuk, you will get quite surprised. In 2018, the valuation reached 85 US billion. And the expectation for 2019 is 100 billion. But this 85 has been dropped from the year before, in 2017, from 97.9. So that's also another interesting issue need to be addressed. So the market share of the Islamic finance institution for the estimated that the GCC market was 46%, and the Malaysia 34%, and the other Asian countries is 13%. And also we have some other countries, 8% to be covered with the Sukuk. So basically, the project that is in the next decade, there will be over 1 trillion worth of investment opportunity that's waiting for the Islamic capital market. So anyway, the numbers is quite huge. So we can look at it and address it. So how the Sukuk is playing a bigger, as a big instrument in the Islamic finance. It was very interesting when I got this paper, or maybe a report from UK. UK started as well to issue Sukuks. You can see from here. So they issued 200 million value of the Sukuk. And it was finishing last month, February 2019. And also they got the Sharia opinions and the compliances from the few of those Islamic finance, CIMB and HSBC from different parts of the world. How does a sukuk work? So basically, I'm not going to tell you how the sukuk work. I'm sure the Islamic finance experts, they know a lot about that. So I just want to make sure that there is some players, some components. So SPV is the big player in the sukuk issuance. So we have whether companies or the financial institutions, when they have any project, they will give it to the SPV, or the SPV launch what they call purchase and sales agreement with the companies. Then they will issue the value of these projects sukuk to the investors. So now we can see SPV from either sukuk ijara or mudaraba or murabaha. As we know, sukuk has characteristics, or it has attributes. Based on these attributes, we have asset-backed-based sukuk, and also we have a debit-back sukuks as well. So those type of sukuk, it is not like addressable to mention here. I just want to mention what is the rule of the SPV. So the responsibility of the SPV, you can see it is the issues sukuk to investors and make agreement with the project holders, receive liquidity from the investors, and then declare the trust over the sukuk asset, act as a trustee in behalf of the investors, and obtain the legality. So when I mention the duty of the SPV, later you will see the comparison between what we have on the SPV side, and that's all gone through some standards. As we know that the OFI, IFA, few other Islamic institutions, they come out with those definitions and the standards, which is a huge contribution from the Islamic world. So now, what are the main sukuk issues then? Basically, according to many researchers, I have seen a lot of issues being addressed. So among them is the standardization. So meaning to say that some people, they follow some certain standards, some other, they don't follow that specific standard. So that was quite amazed me. So in any way, in the, in any kind of instruments, there will be a lot of contribution and building, and also there will be issues to solve it for the future. And that's why when we interact with the Islamic finance, I'm not going to highlight all the details about the standardization. That's one thing. And also there's quite interesting point to be highlighted. Even the non-Muslim world are interested to issue the sukuk. Now you can look at the papers, and the contribution comes from the UK to issue Islamic sukuk and the compliances, and German, Japan, China, Switzerland. So what will be the solution to solve some of these legal, issues and some of those standardization? So what I'm going to address it is the blockchain. And I'm sure majority of the people on this stage has mentioned about the blockchain, but I'm going to detail it. I'm going to tell you what is this blockchain all about. So then we can understand exactly what is this technology. So basically, it is the underpinning technology behind the Bitcoin and Ethereum. And the definition goes far behind that. Blockchain is a continuously updated record of who holds what. So that's what the fundamental description about the blockchain. Let's look at the market. So here you can see what is the contribution in the blockchain market. I'm not going to highlight all of it. So you can see the project that the blockchains, the business value added will grow to 175 billion in between 2017 and 2025. And also the global spending on the blockchain technology, 9.2 billion by 2021. So that's where the expectation and the statistics came out. And the market cap of the cryptocurrency, you can see where is it positioned. It's a 500 billion. So you can look at it, it's almost like a country market cap. And it's ahead of some of the largest countries. It can be bigger than Spain, Israel, Greece, Turkey, Thailand, and Vietnam. It was quite interesting. SAP has done some surveys. So I just want to show some of those figures. So when they conducted the survey, what happened in the future impacts of implementation, this technology in the real economy. So what happens, they have, I cannot see the figures, 76 First of all, is the 86 of the survey response that the blockchain will improve the compliances. So that's where the survey came back from those industries when they evaluated and through some questions. So it's an improvement of the legal framework. And some of the evaluation came out, which is the survey responded view, the operation supply chain will responded that the smart contract will be in between 10 to 5 years, the smart contract will be implemented within different industries. So 76 has responded, 76%. So the improvement of the contract will be based on the smart contracts. And 83 has responded based on the blockchain will become the system of the trust. All right. And also you can see on the early adaptation, this technology is at the early stage, to be honest. You can look at it. So the people that live using blockchain is at 3% up to 2018.
90 seconds.
All right. So anyway, I will skip some of this. I just want to tell you what is the blockchain is all about. Basically, the time is very short. Blockchain is about few applications. So we have token, we have cryptographic hashing, we have smart contracting, we have distributed ledger, we have consensus mechanism. It is not only about cryptocurrency, to be honest. That's one thing. The second thing, when we talk about token, token is a programmable application. It's up to me and you how to program it and rule it and define it for according to the industries. Is it like we going to define it as a security token or as a cryptocurrency? So that's in our hands. So let's talk about the application of the smart contract and what is the token and are they different or not? So to be honest, token is a smart contract itself. So we need to say that when you look at the what you call blockchain, you will not be able to see smart contract. Smart contract is a set of rule, running in the consensus. This set of the rule comes from the industry. Why you want to implement the smart contract? This smart contract is being introduced to the public by using a specific token. So this token and smart contract sitting on the address, holding a value, and this value could be whatever the amount of the asset that you are introducing, and whoever receives it on sends it. So these are the definition of the smart contract and how it has been introduced. So
we can wrap it up, please.
Yeah. So, okay, so basically the time is quite short. I was not expecting. I wanted to try to mention a lot about the smart contract and the nature of the smart contract and the differences. The only thing I just want to mention, the smart contract has been improved a lot. So previously people were mentioning some specific about cryptocurrency and token. So in token we had ERC20. Now I can tell you there are more than thousands of the standards in this line of the technology. So one of the things that which is quite interesting from the Sharia compliant view and also from the legal perspective, experts, they come out with another standard, which is they call it ERC 4000 and ERC 4010. That's where you are interfacing, you can see some certain documentation. Also, you can attach some legal document with any transaction or any value of asset that you are introducing on the blockchain. So these are few things that contributed in this technology. So this technology is not only a plain platform for you to play with it and come out with any kind of business vertical to be built on it. It could be anything. Anything it could go on this blockchain. So why I'm mentioning the nature of this smart contract, which is to me quite close to the sukuk. Just now when I introduced and I mentioned about the sukuk, it has similarity. So they have the similar behaviors. So now is it difficult
Mr.
to
Farhan,
automate the sukuk on the blockchain? So I will end it here. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Farhan. I know the blockchain is a big subject to be discussed, it doesn't need 10 minutes. We need to welcome Mr. Akram Lal for the next session about the standards of Sharia standards for the electronic systems.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, wassalatu wassalamu ala Rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First of all, I would like to thank Darul Mashwara for inviting me to present some of my thoughts related to the topic is more about fintech and also the Sharia issue related to fintech. Now, I think Brother Farhan earlier on have mentioned, I'm going to skip some of the some of the slides. If you look into my paper, at the beginning I did discuss, what fintech is all about, what blockchain is all about, and then some of the element of smart contract. Now, I'm going to skip all this, and now when it comes to blockchain, of course, Brother Farhan have already discussed about what blockchain is all about. Now, it is a platform where we can use, and I think it is us who is going to put whatever input into the different segment in the blockchain for us to benefit from it. Now, as we know that from the Sharia point of view, al-aslu fil ashya al-ibaha, it is something which is, when we talk about matters related to mu'amala, it is permissible. That is the general premise of it. So when we talk about technology, similarly, there are other technologies. We have internet nowadays, we have television, we have the social media and whatnot. You see, it can be used for the right purpose, for the beneficial purpose, and it can also be abused. So similarly, when we talk about blockchain technology, it can be used for good purpose, and it can also be misused. So here, of course, we need the Sharia perimeter in order for us to ensure that it is being used for the right and for the correct purpose in line with the requirement of Sharia. Now, I have given some examples in my presentation. Take, for example, one of the use of blockchain. Nowadays, of course, people are talking about cryptocurrency and whatnot, but then there are other use as well. For example, we talk about smart contract. These are some of the benefits. You see, smart contract, again, when we are doing Islamic transactions, nowadays we are doing murabaha, we are doing musharaka, mudarabah and whatnot. Again, it is the values that we embed into the system, you see, in which, the system can generate the kind of output that we intend. So again, for me, it is the human interference that is important. What are the kind of information that we put? And of course, through the artificial intelligence technology, the system will be able to process all the information that is available and come up with the intended output. Similarly, I always tell my colleague in the Sharia fraternity, probably one day we will have robo Sharia. You see, where maybe people wanted answers on Sharia issues, they don't really have to go and refer to the scholars. You see, the role of the scholars will be very much to just verify what is generated through the system. You see, because all the maybe all the mu'amala resources are there input. So when you put a questions, the system will be able to process and pick up which aspect of mu'amala is relevant to the question, and will generate the fatwa perhaps. So the role of the scholars will be minimized in order just to ensure that what is produced is correct and it is verification. But nevertheless, of course, we still need, the human interference is still very much needed. Yesterday I was reading about this, Boeing Max issue, because nowadays in the airline industry, it is very much automation. Pilot, they will very much rely on the computers. But then, the writer said that however accurate the computer is, you still need a pilot there. You see, in case, if something goes wrong, human interference is always needed. So same thing, you see, when we have all this technology, I always believe that, you see, human interference must always be there in order for us to ensure that what is produced by the system is what is intended, and that what is correct. Okay, I'll go to some of the, I'll just skip this, and some of the examples that we have in Islamic finance nowadays, of course, we have quite a number of platforms that has been developed. For example, I mean, we have disruptive finance, fintech, crowdfunding. You see, all these can be used for the benefit of the community at large, particularly when we are talking about inclusivity in Islamic finance. We are talking about empowering maqasid, for example, and nowadays people are talking about ethical banking and whatnot. I always believe that through technology, I mean, all this can be done. Take, for example, I mean, there is one project that some of our brothers, I mean, they are involved nowadays. How do we empower the SMEs, small and medium enterprise need? One of the issue that we have when it comes to SMEs is that the financial institution, whenever they wanted to give any kind of financing, they do not have the information of the capability of the entrepreneurs for them to pay, what is the kind of business that they are doing, the cash flow and whatnot. But if all this information can be gathered in the system, you see, I mean, we can do wonder, we can help people, you see, in their business and for them to move forward. So this is the kind of thing I always believe that it can be done. Even, I mean, the financing takers, again, when it comes to technology, especially, I mean, the youth nowadays, they prefer to deal more with the machine rather than, you see, human interaction. I give one example. Myself and Dr. Aznan, we are involved in the being a Sharia advisor for the pension fund in Malaysia. Last year, when we started the Sharia compliant pension fund, I mean, this is by the government, it was very much manual, where people have to go to the office in order for them to opt to the Islamic scheme. But alhamdulillah, now this year, starting from January, I mean, they don't have to come to the office. I mean, they can do it online. And alhamdulillah, because of that, the takers for this scheme has tripled every month. I mean, we can see the increased number of people is opting for the Islamic product. And I believe that, you see, if we give, I mean, such chances, it will be more and more. Now, finally, before I start, I've given some of the examples of the challenges that in which Islamic finance have to keep up to date with the different challenges that we have. And finally, when it comes to Sharia compliant, it is very important, as I mentioned earlier on. I mean, the basic premise is that it is allowed, it is permissible. But then when it comes to the standard and whatnot, we must make sure that it comply with the different requirements of Sharia, of Islamic ethics, such as transparent, fair, justice, avoid cheating, fraud, misrepresentation. And I always believe, I mean, that this kind of initiative, it might be easier for us to do it through the system and track it through the system rather than doing it manually. And again, I mean, the different type of transactions that is undertaken nowadays can also be enhanced. And finally, the regulator, they need to really play their role in order to come up with the solid and robust regulatory framework in order to ensure that things are being done. Because when it comes to system, of course, I mean, there are always tendency for people to manipulate, for people to misuse, you see, the technology. So it is very important to have a robust and comprehensive regulatory framework in order to address consumer protection, market conduct issue, technological impact, and whatnot. So I'll stop there. Thank you very much. Jazakumullah khairan, and hope you have benefited from
Thank you,
this
Dr.
session.
Akram. Thank you.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Our next speaker المتحدث الثاني بتكون الدكتورة نورة الفضيس. تكلمنا عن الأمن السيبراني في المصارف الإسلامية. تفضل مشكور.
السلام عليكم. First of all, I want to thank the organizers and the attendee as well to be here until this time. I'm going to talk about the threats and the breaches in the financial sector. So here we can see the recent data breaches, and from there we can find out that the financial services is getting the third position in the most sectors that been having the recent data breaching. So with more than 20% data breaches is in the financial sector. The number of compromised records, we can see also the financial services have a high number of records. So cybersecurity is very important in different areas. However, with the financial sector, it is a must because we are talking about sensitive information and sensitive surface. So here we have some data breaches, visualization. We try to collect some data, and from the data we try to understand what the data is telling us. From here, we can see some public data that we got. This is an online, so it's public. So here we got the data from 2005 until 2017, and from that data we can find out the data sensitivity and also the method of the leak. So here we can have different leaks. So there is the, so here we have different methods of leak and also the data sensitivity from 2005 until 2017, of course. If we go to different years, we can have it only for that year. So this is something where we can understand the data and understand what the data is trying to tell us. We can go back to the slides, please. So here, what are the assets of the financial sector? We have here three different assets. The customer data. So all the information related to the customer, his card ID, his personal information. We have also the insider information, such data, the same as the ones I showed you a minute ago. So these are some of the insider information. From that information, we can know more about the business. This what make the business different from place to other. Banking network, we are here talking about the infrastructure and the equipment that the bank has. Cyber attacks against the financial sector. There are many attacks, always there's a new attack to that sector. So cybersecurity experts noted that the financial sector was exposed to higher cyber risk. Some of the different attacks that happened, like the Panda Banker, like the Trick, all of these were malware that happened in 2018. Digital transformation. So what is digital transformation? Digitalization or digital transformation is the restyling of the financial services. The technology will not replace the existing model. It's just the existing model should adapt to the new technology to make sure that they are giving a good service to the customers. Every new generation is expecting more service-oriented model. So here we talk about the highly automated functions, insight-driven function, faster performance. It is expected that the performance will be offered by the bank will be very fast. We will not wait days until we get that service. It should be within a second. Insight-driven functions, even we are talking about digitalization, not digitization, because we expect that the bank will understand the data, will understand what the data is trying to tell. And from that, the functions will be different and it will be customized functions. Of course, the automated functions. Digital transformation in the UK. Here we got one example, and according to the Royal Bank of Scotland, the number of customers visiting banks has been fallen by 40% in 2018. The check payments now make up just 0.4% of all payments. Mobile transactions has increased 73%. On the other hand, we can see that the financial sector try to avoid or abandon some of the digital transformation projects because still the technology is new, still it is an emerging technology. Digital tools that support the financial sector, we have the cloud services, we have the predictive analytics, robotics, process automation. So all these kind of tools will be very helpful for the financial sector. What are the challenges? So here we are talking about some of the threats. Availability, so the data should be accessed and it should be accessed only by authorized people. Also, the disruption could lead to a loss of revenue. Confidentiality, protection of the data from unauthorized access, and of course, loss of confidentiality could lead to the reputation loss. Integrity, ensure that the data is protected from illegal modification or updating or modifying it. AI threats. Of course, when we talk about a new technology, there is always threat because technology is not ready yet. There is still a chance to make sure that we can use it whenever we need to use it. So technology is infancy. AI is still not fully developed, and potential errors could be disaster. So with the financial sector, it's very important to make sure that we are using a very secure platform. I'm not going to talk about other examples, but I'm sure you know more about what happened with the Ethiopian airline and the failure that happened because of the software failure. So according to the reports, of course. In 2012, the US market night capital lost over $400 million in only 30 minutes because of a computer glitch. The lack of trustworthy AI regulation also is a threat. Not only the AI is as good as who has designed it, but it also depends on whose hand were in it. Type of attacks. The banking malware, so we can have malicious email attachment or fake website. All of these can be used, so we need some solutions for that.
دقيقتين دكتورة.
Content manipulation attack, also known as the man in the browse attack. Okay, here is one example of the ATMs where the criminals can use camera, card skimmer, keyboard overlay to get the information, because hackers, what they need from you is the information. So the bank, customers, all of them should make sure that they are keeping the information secure. Phishing, there's a lot of phishing attacks. Insider attack, this is something also considered as an important attack. Distributed denial of service, also this is one of the threats. The solution, we should raise the awareness and the network insight, the administrator access, where we give the minimum access that makes sure that people can do their job. Biometrics, of course, is one of the important solutions. We need to update the operating system, software, and antiviruses. Trends, of course, blockchain. I'm not going to talk about it because my colleagues already mentioned it. And that's it. Thank you.
شكرا دكتورة، يعطيك العافية. We have our next speakers, Mr. Miku, about the cyber crimes in the financial sector.
Good afternoon, everyone. And first of all, I want to thank you thank the organizers for putting up such a fantastic event and also being able to address this topic from really many angles. So now we're going to talk about some cyber crimes, and I have been leading a research group for 6 years in Singapore, and we have been investigating about cyber hacktivists. When we talk about hacking in general, you can typically read it from the newspapers, but people are actually not very aware who are these hackers and which one of them are actually serious and which one of them are just playing around. Typically, you see these kind of articles or news articles when you say something is sold in dark web, credit cards are stolen, someone logged into a bank and stole the customer records. And as we just learned from the previous presentation, a financial sector is actually getting the biggest hit from all of these attacks. But if we have a look at who are these hackers and who are against you, we can actually classify these hackers into many different types. And the main 4 categories what we have found are, first of all, hacktivists. These are opportunistic hackers who are just doing it for the publicity. And that's what makes the research quite interesting, is because if they only do it for publicity, why does it really matter? What happens after they get the publicity? And the question is, then what? And what should we do about it? Then, of course, there's organized crime that has been there forever. It's still the same people. They just turn it into cyber because they found out that cyber is easier way of getting money. Then we have cyber terrorists, and they don't really care if they get caught or someone sees them because they're fighting for a bigger cause. And they are extremely difficult to handle or manage because even if you detect them, they're still going to launch the attacks. And then the last category is, of course, nation states, which are state-sponsored operations to get information or destabilize countries. So if we split internet into 3 different categories, we have surface web, what you use normally when you want to find websites. And then we have deep web that's not found in the Google. And then the last layer would be dark web, which is typically used using Tor browser. And what's typical about the Tor network is that's where the hacktivists are talking and discussion, because sometimes they don't even know each other. So they need to have a secure medium to actually share information and prepare for their attacks. We came up with the research to categorize a model that categorizes all the threats that we can actually detect before they happen. And this framework also enables some level of prediction of cyber attacks. And it's based on the data that's found in the dark web and deep web and what kind of impact it causes when it's used against an organization. But those ones who are attending the workshop tomorrow, we're going to dive deeper into this then. So in the dark web, you can see all different kind of banks attacked, someone claiming that they can actually sell you access to people's individuals' credit cards or their bank accounts. And now, when the trend is going to be more digital, digital economy brings even higher risks. This is not just limited to financial sector, but as we found in our research, financial sector is involved in more than 50% of these attack campaigns. So this is the flow of a typical attack campaign, what we discovered how the hackers are operating. We're talking about hacktivists now. So they will conduct some kind of a pre-reconnaissance about the possible targets that they could actually attack. And this is visible in the dark web, and this is actually is visible for everyone who just wants to pay attention and dive a little bit deeper. It's also possible to set up automated alarms, so you will get early warning if your name or company name is mentioned there. So after the pre-reconnaissance, they will actually launch a manifesto, which is typically a video and a document that rationalize the attack. So they need to justify why they want to do it. And the manifesto is used to gain media attention and attract other hackers to join this kind of attack campaign. So the manifesto is the way to communicate other hackers to join them. And if they can gather more hackers, then the campaign is going to be more powerful. After the manifesto is done, the hackers are gathering in the dark web and deep web, and they're also listing out targets that would be possible to hack. At this stage, they don't actually know which one is successful, which one is not, but they will start listing companies, the key personnels, the IP addresses, the services names, for example, online banks, and so on. And this is also purely visible all the time, so you can actually also get early warning triggers when your organization is listed. After gathering all the targets, they will start voting which ones we're going to hack. And after voting, they will actually start the first wave of attacks. And the first thing what they do is they try to break into web applications, whether they are apps or online systems that you can use with your browser. But that's the first thing they try to do. And the whole goal is to get any information that they can so they can publish that the hack was successful. If the attack doesn't work, they switch to second wave of attacks, which is called denial of service attacks. So because they didn't get access to the systems, they want to show media that they did something that had an impact. So they will launch, using robots, they will launch a lot of packages against your systems until the system can't respond anymore. It's not necessarily very dangerous, it just disrupts the business for a while, but the hackers can claim that they did some damage. So when they launch the campaign, they want to have a reason behind it to attract people. So we categorized all these reasons based on the PESTEL framework. So we have political reasons, economic reasons, social reasons, technology reasons, environmental reasons, and legal reasons. And the political reasons seem to be the biggest ones right now. But even when they're political, financial sector has over 50% of involvement rate in these attacks. So this is how a typical manifesto looks like. It's usually a black and white document that they put online, and then they also have a video about it. And this is how the target list looks like if you go and have a look. So they will actually tell the campaign name in the header. So this is called Operation Wales. And then they start listing out the targets. They will also tell which IP addresses they are going to attack, and if they have done any reconnaissance work before. And these are all the moments when you can actually identify that someone is targeting you before they actually launch the attack. And this is how it looks like if you catch the package using intelligence software. So you can find out that there's Operation Catalonia going on, and then you can start seeing what the discussion is taking you to. So how do you end up in the target list? We also had a closer look about it. So there's three main ways to be involved in these attack campaigns. One is by conduct. So for example, oil companies spilling oil, some hacktivists feel that that's unfair and they will list you there. Or for example, in Singapore, we had Barclays Bank laying off people, and the hacktivists think that's not fair. So if your organization is doing something, some action, and the hackers then don't feel that's fair. Then the second way is by product. So if the hackers decide that they will launch attacks against banks, then being a bank is enough. If you're offering similar services, then that's enough. So it's not because you did something, but it's because you are operating in certain market. And then the third one is bystander effect, which is quite interesting. So for example, quite many campaigns are against different governments, and the hackers will also include government-related vendors or, for example, IT companies who are supporting government with their systems.
2 minutes.
So you don't have anything to do with the campaign, and it's against someone else, but you might actually take some part of the damage. So this is how the discussion looks like, just a couple of screenshots. And then let's switch to the protection side. So because the hackers are talking openly, we are able to see how they launch the attacks. So if you are monitoring the cyber exposure and the activist activity, you can actually get early warning before it happens. The earliest we have discovered is 9 months before the attack, and the shortest period we have found is 2 days. So at least you get some kind of idea that there's something happening. The second one is what we call perform asset discovery. So the hackers will create a map of all your public assets, what IP addresses you have online, what services you have online. So if you don't know what you have, then you can't secure it. But they will try to find out something that you forget, and then they will attack that one. It can even be a blog. And then once you have identified what you have online, you need to perform continuous testing against it. So you can automate this testing to make sure that every day it's secure. And then, of course, prepare your communication. So when this kind of attack happens, then there's going to be a lot of media asking, hey, are you secure? What are you doing about it? So it's better to have a plan already because when the hackers come, it's a bit too late to do the plan. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr.